So Fife Voluntary Action is the third sector interface for Fife, and we support a range of third sector organisations in capacity building. We support people who want to volunteer or who are interested in supporting volunteering, and my bit is we provide policy support around employability. So we work particularly with third sector employability organisations, representing them strategically and supporting them in partnership working in the area.
So I joined the council in 2016 and took over the role of the lead for the Opportunities Fife partnership from the head of service at that point. So been very much involved with the development of the previous Opportunities Fife Partnership Challenge Fund, and critically in terms of setting up the new OFP Challenge Fund, which came on stream at the beginning of this year.
What we initially had going back to 2015 was 8 third sector organisations together who operate an employability pathway. So we go from stage 1 to stage 5, so from sort of main barrier resolution into finding a job and keeping a job. For this year's funding, we've got 7 partners.
The work around employability began around 2003, and that was on the back of some research that was done by, or commissioned by the Opportunities Fife Partnership to look at the employability pathway in Fife, and they looked at the third sector provision in that, and one of the key findings around that was that the provision was doing really well, but there was too much of it and it was too little itty-bitty scattered around, so lots of little bits of provision, and they wanted to work more with the sector to improve the coordination of the different bits of provision, but also to have one clear voice that they could link with strategically. So rather than having to engage with 20 services, they could just speak to one person who would be the rep, and that person would then work out with the wider sector.
Fife has, as other local authorities, some particular challenges to address. So through our local outcome improvement plan for Fife, we identified that mid-Fife needs to be a particular area of focus. That's where we have some of the more intransigent problems around long-term worklessness, multi-generational worklessness, families requiring particular support. But one of the biggest things for us was around mental health. And just really reading the data that something like 43% of people who are claiming benefits had a mental health barrier to work. Now those are some of the challenges that the council can address on its own, but actually we're getting greater performance, greater levels of activity and trust in the community through working with third sector partners. So it has been a very effective relationship, and part of it for me is obviously how we make the public pound go as far as possible. So whether that's the council's own resources, whether it's European funding, whether it's the match funding that the third sector can bring, whether it's another external resource, actually we found the cost benefit equation, so the outcomes we get for the amount of money invested, works really well under this partnership model.
We have, in the last sort of 4 years, we have operated with just short of 4,000 people. It's like 3,800-ish, something along these lines, with the target for 1,100 every year for the next 3 years.
I think there have been a number of benefits to the partnership working. So first of all, improved coordination. So one of the first things we did was support the creation of Fife Employment and Training Consortium, which brings together 8 third sector providers to work together in a coherent Fife-wide way around employability, and that's now become one of the largest employability service providers in Fife. One of the second things that I think it's done is actually just wider networking, relationship building. So we host a number of events. We host a cross-sectoral employability forum and then a kind of third sector only employability conversation, just to bring people together, create opportunities for networking and relationships, and from that partnerships evolve quite naturally and of their own.
We have a very good relationship with our communities and with our clients through our in-house teams, but it just adds that extra dimension that someone might take that first step towards employability through a local organisation or through an organisation they feel they can have a bond of trust with at pace. So that's really benefited communities. It's also about reach. I mean, Fife is a big authority. It's the 3rd largest local authority in Scotland, and it's an authority which has a host of towns, villages, so geographic spread. It's not like a city environment where we perhaps have 2 or 3 outlets serving the whole community. Actually, we need to kind of spread that so we get the advantage of sector specialism, of geography, of particular types of support and different levels of support across the employability pathway as well. So it's something for everyone, but it's beyond the universal. It's getting into that kind of targeted and specialist territory, which we feel is really important for some of the key challenges that we have in Fife.
The benefits are massive. I think actually what you've got is a lot of different skill sets that are there, a lot of different experiences that are able to be listened to and put together. It also gives you access to more focus groups, different types of people that you could listen to be able to bring in, rather than just thinking it's somebody that's interested in getting a job, let's ask them what they want. We can be a little bit more far-reaching in terms of bringing people in. It gives us access to different streams of funding, different things, and also gives you an opportunity for everybody to upskill and grow.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's been fantastic for both the local authority and for the third sector. It's enhanced employability outcomes for everybody. It's enhanced everybody's understanding of how they can work better together and created lots more opportunities. So yeah, I think the money that is invested in a bit of coordination pays large dividends in terms of improving outcomes in the end.
I would, and I mean, I think probably our advice to other local authorities is, be prepared to be patient and take time on it. And actually that's where having a role within Fife Voluntary Action to do the coordination has been particularly important. Not only in building the relationships initially, they've been going on for some considerable years. It's about the kind of maintenance, and when barriers come into the road, it's about working collectively together to shift those barriers. So through the Opportunities Fife partnership, we have colleagues from the public, private and third sector around the table, having good, frank, open, honest conversations about how we drive performance forward, but also able to come up with different perspectives and ideas on some of the strategic issues. So if you take something like mental health, we can actually bring in a collective approach that's probably much stronger than if one organisation was to tackle it alone. It also helps us in terms of bringing in different pots of funding, different approaches to delivery. We can be innovative and test things that perhaps you wouldn't necessarily have the flexibility to do if you're doing it under a single council approach, and certainly not through a kind of more straightforward contracting approach where you might have one provider going off and delivering all of your services. Actually, it's that kind of playing to our strengths argument, which I think works really well here in Fife.
Yeah, I absolutely would recommend it. I do think it's the way forward. However, I think that what you have to have is like-minded people in the room and not shy away from a difficult conversation. And I think that's really been part of our success, is putting issues on the table and actually saying, no, we need to fix them, or we need to do something about it. That can be difficult. However, that also reaps the benefits. So I would say yes, absolutely, it is the way forward, but there'll be bumps along the road, definitely.
It's all about relationships, obviously, so getting to know the priorities, the issues, the challenges of the partners that you're working with, and building trusting, open and honest relationships with them is really important. You need to work in the context that you're in and be realistic about that, but also build on the opportunities that are there. And the only other thing I would say is it's just really important to take the helicopter view and in terms of this role, and not get bogged down too much in the detail.
I would say start the conversations early and expect it to take some time, and that's very valid at the beginning of a process. You won't necessarily see eye to eye on everything, and we don't always, but it's about airing those conversations early and as I say, having open and honest discussion around it to find a way forward.
Relationships are obviously key to that, and I think remaining honest, but I think it's also not taking your eye off the ball and losing focus of actually what you need to do. I think that what we've done consistently is reevaluated, changed, and being proactive as well as reactive. At times, you can't help being reactive, but proactive in terms of looking at changing priorities. What do we need to do different? We've not shied away from difficult conversations. That's meant different ways that the funding's been spent in different aspects, but that's always been for exactly what's required and listening to what the funders are actually looking for and all stakeholders taking into account actually what do we need to do.